This is the mountain pass that my Speed Triple crashed on, and today I'm here for redemption. The only problem is that the pass is 1,425 kilometers from my house.
But I haven't spent the last 4 months rebuilding this bike from scratch for nothing.
I want to ride the road that it failed to complete on its last outing. Plus, I finally get to enjoy the fruits of my labor. How's that?
Scary.
Scary? What? Oh, and technically, this is our honeymoon trip as well. So let's hope the wife doesn't notice that the bike is coming too.
When I bought the Speed Triple as a wrecked bike from a salvage yard, I had no idea what its story was, but I knew I wanted to save it.
But the internet is a mysterious place, and after just one video about this bike, the previous owner reached out to me on Instagram and told me the whole story about the crash. He had clipped an oncoming car on a somewhat famous piece of road in the Western Cape of South Africa called Franschhoek Pass. All I knew was that it must be fun because it's a mountain pass, and secondly, Red Bull have filmed a drift video there with Mad Mike. That's it. I have never been there.
4 months later, we've replaced the damaged frame and subframe, scraped metal out of the engine, had the bent forks rebuilt, and all of the bodywork repaired or replaced and repainted. And despite having Triumph themselves give it a once-over and declare it fit for service, I still want to give it the redemption it deserves.
I think riding the mountain pass that it crashed on would be a fitting end to the story, although I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous given its history on that road. Okay, very nervous. So we leave tomorrow and the Triumph isn't quite finished yet, so we need to do that first. The good news is that I was able to get that defective quickshifter replaced under warranty. So now I have a working quickshifter and I love Triumph Johannesburg even more. I've got a stator cover replacement because mine has these deep scratches in it. Now we can't put it on now because it also needs to be repainted. This one actually hit a car bumper which rubbed some of the coating off. So it still looks ugly, but there aren't any scratches in it. So it's going to be easier to repaint this one than it is to fix this one, and still cheaper than buying a whole new one. I've also got a replacement indicator because this one was actually on the other side of the bike during the crash. So it's also pretty scratched and it's actually supposed to be further forward. It's bent back. So let's get that swapped out. Much better. And finally, I've got a link pipe here to get rid of the catalytic converter. So basically, we will still have the stock silencer, unfortunately, because we're on a budget here, but it will be lighter without the cat and significantly louder. But as you can probably tell from the weathered look and the rust back here, this is second hand, just like everything else I got. But considering everything I've shown you was just under $200, and this is gonna make the bike way more fun to ride, I think it's a pretty good deal. So let's polish this thing up so it matches the rest of the bike.
It's not very pretty, but the idea of a louder Triumph sounded like too much fun to pass up given the price. Plus, the bike will automatically compensate and won't need to be tuned.
And there we go. After a lot of elbow grease and a little bit of cheating on my bench polisher, it looks better. It's still ugly, but hey, even an ugly link pipe is still prettier than a beautiful catalytic converter. Let's start by loosening off the silencer. And then it looks like I have to remove this cover as well to get to one of the bolts that I need to get to. Maybe not. I don't think I need that bolt. Then there's the big bolt supporting the cat. And finally, the clamp. And then it should come off. Just like that. Now I just need to loosen off these two clamps here to separate the silencer from the cat. And then this link pipe replaces the cat and connects in the same place to the silencer. And there we go. That's not as light as I wanted, but that is as heavy as I wanted. And lastly, this goes back on. And that's it. But I do have two problems. Firstly, I need a real clamp for here. This one isn't working and I don't have another one currently, but I will get it before I ride it. And secondly, now there is an empty space here and it looks kind of weird, but it might just be because I'm not used to it. And I also can't put this cover back on because it bolts to the catalytic converter. And I really like this cover. I'm not sure if it's worth a few extra decibels to look this untidy. What do you think? I take it back, I like that. That's a naughty sound. The idle is very similar, still tolerable. And then you blip it, and it gets really loud. The next challenge is getting to Franschhoek. Now, we can't just ride there. My wife won't let me since it's our honeymoon. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my whopping 4 months of marriage, it's how important compromise is. There's not even a windscreen on the Speed Triple. There aren't any panniers or a top box for our clothes. Actually, none of that is true. I'm the problem. Riding 3,000 kilometers on a boring straight road is not my idea of enjoyable motorcycling. And we're on a time limit because my wife only has a week off of work, so we can't even take a more enjoyable scenic route. So we're taking the truck. But that means getting a heavy bike in the back of a truck at my height. Fun fact, this is my original ramp. As you can see, it's short and narrow, but it was always perfect to get dirt bikes into a truck and even to get bikes up the few steps into my workshop. But then I got the bright idea of taking my R1 on a trip to nice roads in the back of the truck. And getting it up this is impossible for someone of my stature. So I bought these two. They're longer and wider. I got one for the R1 and one for me to walk up next to the R1. But literally the day after I bought these ramps, the R1 broke down, so I got to test them right away. But long story short, I never ended up taking the R1 on a trip. So after all this time, they're finally going to get used for what they were intended for.
The ramps even come with straps to attach them to the truck so that they can't slip out when you pull the front brake while unloading. So with the bike safely loaded into its new home for the next 2 days, I made sure to pack the important stuff for a honeymoon, motorcycle gear. A little too much gear according to the box. And the next morning, we were off bright and early.
Computer, light.
Bikers aren't cut out for 15 hours in a cage, so for my own sanity, we decided to split the drive up into 2 days. And luckily, every time I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the Triumph's face, it got me a little more excited to ride the mountain pass. To be honest, it was really boring at first, but from day 2, the terrain got prettier and I started enjoying this road trip thing a bit more. I took the chance to top the bike up along the route in preparation. I checked the straps countless times as a concerned father, and sadly, I got the bike dusty along the way. But by the end of day 2, we were surrounded by wine farms.
After all, that is what the Western Cape of South Africa is famous for. There are countless incredible wine farms that you can visit. Perfect for a honeymoon.
But after 15 hours in a car for my stupid adventure, we'd still not done anything honeymoon related. So it was only fair that our first stop was a wine tasting. Now, we're pretty clueless when it comes to wine tasting. Nevertheless, we got to choose 4 wines from a menu and then pretend to be connoisseurs, although I think the staff could see through our bullshit. But we had fun.
Now, Franschhoek is a pretty expensive area, so accommodation in my budget is rather scarce. Basically anything that I could afford was about 45 minutes away from the mountain pass. But somehow I lucked out and I think I found the cheapest Airbnb in the vicinity, and it's only 6 minutes from the pass.
I think it's what you would call cute, with its little fountain, and there's even grapevines, and you can do strawberry picking in the summertime apparently. But I'm just here for the good roads, so the next morning, the real fun began.
So now I had just 3 days to ride the mountain pass, which is more than enough time. if the weather plays ball, and it's currently the rainy season, so the longer I put this off, the higher the chance that I might be riding the sketchy pass in the rain. But then again, I didn't come all of this way just to ride a 13-kilometer mountain pass. But on the other hand, I don't know which other roads are even worth exploring. So when a local offered advice, I was all ears.
So the only request from the lady who runs this Airbnb is that I push the bike to the gate instead of ride it, so that I don't upset her dogs, which I thought was a fair request. Plus, it's good morning cardio.
And coming out the front gate to a wine farm right in front of you never got old.
So we come out of our Airbnb and there's a wine farm right there. How cool is that?
This is Cam. He's a local to this area and a subscriber who planned this nice big loop for us that covers a bunch of beautiful roads and areas, and he offered to show us his favorite coastal road called Clarence Drive. Plus, he's also a Triumph guy on a street triple, so our bikes got along nicely. Following a local changes a ride altogether. They know where the fun roads are, where the speed cameras are, where you can and can't have a bit of fun, and even where the good coffee is. And although there are more great roads than I can ride in one trip, this was a great start. This was actually the first time I've ever ridden by the sea, and I couldn't decide between enjoying the views or enjoying the road. But the one thing I could enjoy at all times was the speed triple. This was the first good ride I've done on it, with a working quickshifter and the new link pipe. It was sounding brilliant, and it's the perfect bike for exploring unknown twisty roads. And what a road it was. A great surface, polite traffic, and a good tour guide. It's one of those roads you want to do over and over again to get faster and faster.
A crap day on the bike is still better than a good day in the office.
Obviously, we had to stop at a lookout point to get an obligatory photo of the speed triple in front of the ocean. We also played around a bit, just riding up and down, and just listened to that triple reverberating off the mountain. I think Cam could just sense that I wanted coffee because he stopped without me even having to ask.
So you get to ride that whenever you want.
Whenever I want.
That's not fair, is it?
It's fucking nice, eh?
So Cam had to go back to work because he has a real job, so he went that way. So we're gonna finish off the loop that he gave me back to where we're staying, which is that way.
It's funny to think that the Triumph has almost certainly ridden this road long before it met me. Nevertheless, we finished off the loop and got to see more little coastal towns and some beautiful roads between farms with these bright yellow flowers that I have no idea what they are, but I know they matched my bike perfectly, and I couldn't have asked for a better warm-up ride before Franschhoek Pass the next day. But not before some more honeymooning in the afternoon at a beautiful wine farm, a picturesque hike up the mountain we'll be riding tomorrow, and a romantic barbecue with the Triumph, my wife.
You might be wondering how the hell I convinced my wife to let me bring my bike on our honeymoon. And also, how mad is she by this point after spending about 5 hours out on the bike that morning? You see, originally I joked with my wife that when I finish rebuilding the Triumph, we'll take it to ride the pass and make it our honeymoon at the same time, since it's a beautiful part of the country. The Triumph accidentally became part of another story as well. You see, I bought the Triumph 2 days after proposing to my girlfriend. I deserved an engagement present after all. And then 3 months later, we got married. Don't worry, it wasn't a drunken Vegas wedding. We've been together for 10 years already, so we didn't do the traditional big wedding because that's not who we are. Which meant we didn't rush off to the Bahamas for a honeymoon either. So somehow she agreed to my bizarre idea, and it was actually so much fun having the bike with us on vacation. It's a great way to get around and to see a new area from a different perspective than you would in a car. So fellas, if your wife doesn't let you bring the bike with you on your honeymoon, she's not the one. You deserve the best.
The next morning, we started in the middle of town.
So this is the middle of Franschhoek. This is where the pass begins. It essentially connects two towns, Franschhoek and Villiersdorp.
And so we headed out of town and started the 13-kilometer pass. I had no idea if it was going to be fun or treacherous, a way to get redemption or just to reawaken the curse. But already it was beautiful as we started climbing. And the good thing is that when you're focused on riding, you don't think about all the ways it could go wrong. Thus far, it seemed like a great idea, with a beautiful road carved into a mountain, winding between trees, and I could even get an idea of what corners were up ahead on my phone. But the very first hairpin bend was already covered in water, making it slippery and serving as an unwanted reminder of the bike's history here. We kept climbing the winding road, with a surface that was exactly what you wanted. But then, the roadwork signs started popping up, and little did I know how many there would be throughout the pass. We came across the first of many rockfalls that meant the road became a one-way for a few yards. I was able to safely sneak through thanks to a truck blocking for us, but that wasn't always the case. But since we were stuck behind that truck, it seemed like a good time to appreciate the mountains ahead and the town below us getting smaller and smaller to our left. In this section, there was a very noticeable crosswind keeping me on my toes, not to mention the sun in my eyes. And suddenly, I started to see how this road might actually be a little dangerous at times when all of these factors combine. Just a few meters later, we came across another rockfall, and once again I got lucky with my timing and didn't have to stop for oncoming traffic in my own lane. Now the lighting was changing with every turn, and without even trying, we caught up to another car, but luckily got past safely just before, you guessed it, another landslide or rockfall. But I guess I would rather be annoyed by riding around rockfalls than getting caught up in one. Then suddenly, there was more runoff water from the mountain across the road, just to get your tires nice and wet right before the sharpest switchback of the whole pass. This section looks stunning, with the road carved into the mountain and that random cloud hanging onto the peak up there. Then, around the summit, it started to flatten out a bit, just in time for another landslide or something, and we got a bit of a rest before the descent. As we started descending, the view evolved once again, and to be honest, I don't think I could have picked a better day weather-wise. But just imagine how nervous the Triumph is feeling at this point. I bet it can't believe that it's right back where this all started after everything it's been through. My wife was brave enough to join me on this ride, but she's never actually ridden a road like this before. And despite usually being a pretty good passenger, on this road she was fighting me a bit through the unrelenting turns. But I think it was just to add yet another danger to make the ride more dramatic. In this section, we got pretty lucky with traffic, and as a bonus, we got a break from the rockfalls for a decent stint as well. And I was slowly feeling more confident, so this was probably the most enjoyable section for me. This is without a doubt the last place I expected to be riding this bike when I bought it, and it's a super satisfying feeling riding this bike here after all it's been through. And boy am I glad it's not in a scrapyard right now. To be honest, I haven't been riding a lot recently because my routes are feeling a bit stale. So this was an awesome way to reinvigorate my passion for bikes, and every time I glanced down at my GPS and saw fewer and fewer miles to go, I felt disappointed. Towards the end, we did end up getting stuck behind a bunch of cars, but I'd had my fun, so I couldn't complain. So just out the other side of the pass, I pulled over to turn around and thought about how embarrassing it would be if I dropped the bike now after safely completing the mountain pass.
How's that?
Scary.
Scary? What?
So with it declared scary, we turned around and did it all over again, experiencing everything in reverse, but this time with a lot fewer nerves.
Well, Triumph, you did it. You conquered Franschhoek Pass. I knew you could do it.
So I guess you could say that we got redemption.
Oh, and of course, beer tasting as the honeymoon activity.